Today we're going to cover the 8 qualities or traits that you need to have, I think, in a realtor. Whether you hire me or whether you hire somebody else, it's totally your prerogative, but I think these are 8 qualities that I study and work really hard to have the integrity to emulate. And we're going to cover those 8 qualities today because you don't know what you don't know, and some people haven't worked with a realtor before and wonder, what's the value? So I'm going to tell you today. Connect with people just like you every day to help them discover where to live and invest in real estate and sell property for top dollar when the time is just right for them. My name is Leif Jacobson. I'm an ex-cop turned realtor, also known as Safe Leif. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe so you're first to learn about Colorado real estate. My contact information is below. I'm excited to hear from you. Reach out by text, call, or email. I'd love to hear from you that way, or book a calendar appointment and I can reach out to you, whatever works best. So let's get right into it. The 8 traits that key realtors should have in order to serve you well in the end, because in the end, it's all about good faith and being productive and providing value to you in buying or selling real estate. So the first thing that I would recommend highly as a realtor is a problem-solving mindset.
Got this. I got this.
This is soft skills. This is a mindset that goes into being a problem solver rather than somebody who is, living out of fear or afraid of or confrontational when problems come up. So there are dozens or hundreds of components to a real estate transaction. We can't control all of them. We can control a lot on our part, but there are so many facets from appraisal to lending or mortgage to insurance and title and all that goes into that. I mean, there's over 40 people in general working on an average real estate transaction when mortgage and lending is involved, especially. And it could be 42, 45 people all in the background working on lots of moving parts and pieces to bring that deal together to a closing after 30 or 45 days, sometimes a couple weeks, but usually it's about a 1-month closing time frame. And we can't control all of those components, and when some of them don't go perfectly, and they don't go perfectly all the time, not because we're not doing our job, but because we can't control all those components, it's very, very important to have a problem-solving, positive, optimistic mindset in those and work with parties as a team for a win-win situation. That's what I preach on this channel, and I work really hard to be a win-win guy. I don't do win-lose deals. I do win-win deals where I'm advocating for you very specifically, and I want everyone on both sides of the real estate transaction to get their needs met, because that's how we get the best deal for our clients, is we make sure that we're attentive and aware and proactive in making sure the other party has their needs addressed as well. Because things don't go well, and when they're controversial and it's all about win-lose, that doesn't go well generally for both parties, ironically. It's not like the winning party really wins. Actually, when it's a win-lose, just like in marriage or anything else, actually both parties lose in that circumstance. I'm a firm believer in that. So addressing problems as they come up and having that type of mindset is vital. Having a proactive approach as well can be huge in making sure that things go well and go as smoothly and as seamless as possible. When we're proactive and we're looking ahead and we're aware of the next steps and we can anticipate things a little bit, that makes a big difference. Rather than being reactive, we want to be fully proactive so we can anticipate and avoid lots of issues just by anticipating those and rolling with the punches and anticipating what problems that could occur, what problems that need to be solved even ahead of time so we don't have them. And that's what creates that more seamless and smooth transaction, which mitigates your risk as well. Deal preservation is another benefit. When we all have that optimistic and proactive mindset and we're working together as a team and everybody wants the same thing to come to a successful transaction that meets everyone's needs, deals are more likely to close. Maximizing returns for sellers and maximizing value for buyers are 2 ways also that it's really important to have the problem-solving mindset, because we get those deals done better with everyone's needs in mind. Now I'm just repeating myself, but it's so important, and that's why I hit this up as number 1, is having that mindset to get deals done and maximizing returns on investment. So the money you've spent, if you're a seller and selling a property, you want to maximize the property's return that it comes back to you as far as the investment to you, and to maximize the value for a buyer in coming forward that way as well. The second trait that's important that a realtor emulates is honesty and integrity. I probably could have put this first because we all know that you do business with people who you know, like, and trust. And if you don't have trust, really, if you don't have all the 3 legs of that stool, all those 3 components, then then there is no working relationship, because if you can't trust somebody, you can't work with them. So that's number 2. It's essential. As realtors, it's explicitly our fiduciary duty to serve your best interest with the highest level of advocacy and confidentiality to serve you. And that's where trust comes from, is when you can trust that we're putting your needs ahead of ours and not just our commission or, the next deal or kind of transaction style deal for us. When we're seeing people as humans, connecting with them on an authentic and genuine level, that is going to build trust and a relationship where you can trust us to have your best interest and trust me to serve you well in a transaction. Knowledge and expertise of the market is another key component here, because that builds trust as well. Yeah, I can have all the integrity and honesty in the world, but if I don't know the market and do my job well with prowess as a realtor, how can I serve you in listening to your goals and needs and priorities and finding you a property that's just right as a buyer, or finding you just the right buyer to come forward with versus selling your property as am I your listing agent? I can't serve you very well if I don't know the market either as far as marketing your property. Assertiveness versus aggression. Those are two different things. You want a realtor like me who is assertive and not afraid to step up. I'm an ex-cop and I'm not afraid to step up my game if people are not behaving as they should in a real estate transaction or are vying for everybody's needs. So I'm advocating for you, I'm serving you well, so I'm not afraid to be assertive and step up and fight for you, but I also don't do that aggressively or confrontationally, like in an inappropriate confrontational way. Again, going back to that win-lose type of vibe. Nobody likes to be confronted in an aggressive way, and really all that does, like we did as cops for years, we all knew the police officers that were going to show up and escalate a situation by being aggressive and coming in, or someone who's going to come in, another officer is going to come in and help diffuse the situation by, again, working on getting everybody's needs met and diffusing things by being assertive and being firm and setting healthy boundaries is different than being aggressive. Hopefully that makes sense, the difference. Open communication is really important as well. I pride myself on being an open and honest and straightforward and bottom line person, but I'm also sensitive and relational and want to come across in a way where I have honesty and integrity when I'm telling you, but also be sensitive and tactful in what I'm sharing and what I'm not in certain circumstances. There can be valuation challenges in valuing property. So I'm looking at stats and sold stats as far as doing a comparative market analysis, a CMA, coming forward and looking, hey, what do we think this property is worth? Whether we're selling it or whether we're preparing to make an offer on the buy side, we need to make an appropriate offer to make sure you're getting the value or maximum return as a listing if you're selling a property. So having sensitivity and prowess in knowledge as far as valuating property can be tricky, especially in this market in the last few years. It's the most volatile real estate market we've ever seen in the history of the United States. We need to have a lot of knowledge, a lot of background to be able to back up, not just opinion, not just how we feel about a property. What you and I feel like a property is worth is sort of irrelevant. It's all about what people have paid for property and what we can back up with the numbers and statistics and articulate those coming forward. An agent's reputation matters because it's going to serve you well, but also because you're paying the agent or broker like me in part to deal with other brokers and agents who've probably done business with them before. So having a history and a track record of being open and beneficial and honest and clear in communication and having integrity in those things is a huge benefit to you, because the person who's representing you, who's the agent, is going to get the best results in the end when they're dealing with the highest integrity and having open communication with other brokers. The last trait that feeds into honesty and integrity is transparency. Transparency as far as what the agent is good at as well. I do vacant land deals and I have really good knowledge as far as what it takes to sell and buy raw land, which is a totally different world than buying or selling improved property. There's wells and septics and other, development and zoning codes and all sorts of stuff that goes into vacant land, and some agents don't have experience in that and they won't tell you that. They'll just move forward as if they think they know they can just do anything, and they can. We can all learn to do things, but it's important that there's transparency and an agent being honest with you. If they haven't done that type of transaction before, they actually have a duty by state law to tell you that, and just be very careful in that. Same with commercial deals. I do some small commercial, not massive, not doing skyscrapers and things like that, but I do some small commercial deals, from storage units to, small retail strip malls and things like that. And it's vital to have an agent who's transparent with you regarding what their experience is, how they can serve you well, and what they've done before in their experience. The third trait, that would seem kind of basic, but it's actually pretty common for lots of realtors. Just do this for a living or they do it part-time. Vast majority of realtors are not doing this for a living and not doing it full time. There's thousands and thousands of realtors in Colorado Springs area where I'm at, and a lot of realtors don't do it full time, and a lot of realtors actually don't even like it. They don't like houses, they don't really like property, they're just kind of muddling along, kind of like somebody in a job is just doing the job even though they hate it, and they're just kind of grinding along. You want to be sure and work with a realtor who's passionate and engaging and interested, because we all know that changes all of our interaction and integration with our job and what we do, and we're better at what we do when we're interested in what we do. With an interest in architecture and real estate comes more research and more knowledge in general, and a knowledge base around remodeling and renovation insights. So not all things that you put into a house, money and resources and time, come back and provide a great return. There's some areas like landscaping for houses that might be wonderful for you to use. There's nothing wrong with putting in extravagant or elaborate or really in-depth and expensive landscaping. Nothing wrong with that, but generally it doesn't provide the equivalent value and doesn't provide a great return, even like multiple times the return from the money you spent. But things like kitchens, bathrooms, roof, windows, and upgrades on key finishes, new flooring, those things come back in spades as far as the return. So you want a realtor like me who's in tune to what's going to provide a good return, whether you're buying or selling property, because if you're buying it, you're eventually going to be selling it. You're not going to have this house for 30 or 50 years, as chances are. So I can help you provide and help provide you with an understanding of what's going to provide a good return as you consider the resources and maintenance you put into that house for years and years to come. Legal expertise such as zoning law and building codes are important if you're looking at improving property or you're getting vacant land like we've talked about as well. If you want to get property and you want to do something specific, or you need to make a modification in order for that to meet your needs specifically, it is vital that you have a realtor working with you who's going to help you understand whether you can do the things for the reason you're buying the property in the first place. Or if you're looking to sell property or make modifications to it, you need to be sure you're doing those legit and on the up and up, and I can help with that. Lastly, regarding interest and kind of alignment of passion, is just an interest, and it makes more fun working with people. It's more fun to work with people when they're interested and passionate about what they're doing. So again, that seems simple, and it is, but it's pretty common actually to deal with lots of folks and brokers who are just not excited and passionate and positive about what they're doing in real estate. So that makes a huge difference, and I pride myself on being that guy as well. The fourth trait that's vital for realtors is hustle and tenacity. This is not just the type of process where we just kind of slap things on the MLS and sit back and wait for things to come to us. I'm extremely proactive, very intentional in everything that I do. I'm known for hitting the ground, and I'll go door knocking and cold calling in a neighborhood. If my client is looking to be in a specific area or region of town or in a specific neighborhood or a specific place, I will go and door knock and cold call. I've found people who are willing to sell to my clients just by going and beating the streets and going out and doing that. So you want a realtor who's going to go do what it takes in order to get the property and not just rely on what's for sale or what's already out there. Maybe somebody's thinking of selling, but we just don't know that yet. So you don't want to know what you don't know in that case, and I'll go find them. Let's go get them. Market and investing insights. It's important to have a mindset. I'm a real estate investor myself, and so we always want to find that balance for you and for your property. When you're a buyer, you want a property that's going to work well for your personal needs and also be a good investment. You don't want one that's a great investment. You don't want to live there. We don't want one that you love, but it's not a good investment in general. Now, I'll help you buy whatever you want, to be very clear, but what I want for you is to have it work incredibly well for your needs and your goals and your priorities, and also be a fabulous investment for you long-term, so you'll see a great return one day when you go to sell it. Tenacity ties into communication for me, and I don't appreciate or respect people who are non-responsive or non-communicative, and I don't think most people want a realtor who exhibits either of those traits. I am extremely intentional. Sometimes I'm so on it. People are like, dude, we're good. I reach out so proactively and so much all the time. Sometimes I have to ask people, hey, is this too much? Do you not want me reaching out that often? So a lot of realtors are known for being non-communicative. They sign you up, and then all of a sudden you're not hearing anything. It's crickets, and you're thinking, what's going on, and what's happening with my listing, and are people interested? Or even on the buy side, and they're like, hey, is this guy working for me to find us a house or what? So I'm extremely proactive in communication, even so much so that I need to ask people, hey, do you want more or less information and communication? Because I am on it. Unless I'm in a meeting or doing something else, I reply to text messages within seconds or minutes, and I'm on it vast majority of the time, unless I'm doing something with my family or in a meeting with another client. And it's important to understand, and I'll tell you straight up, that I don't interrupt meetings with you to answer text messages from somebody else, and I won't answer your text messages if I'm in a meeting with someone else as well, to honor them and their time. You also want a strong negotiator in a realtor. I'm a professional negotiator. In my career as a police officer before this, that's what I did all the time, is negotiate with suspects and clients in law enforcement. Is a nice term for them. And so I was negotiating constantly, reference things, and that's partly where I learned the win-win type of flavor. In good negotiation is a win-win scenario and not an adversarial scenario. So you want somebody who's going to be proactive and be exceptional at negotiating for everyone's benefit, because that's what gets you the best deal. You also want someone who is driven by results. As realtors, we get paid on commission. I tell people all the time, I want to sell this house for more money than you want to make money. I get paid a percentage of that commission, right? So everyone is incentivized in a transaction like that, and that's the way we like it. That's all great. So I want to be incentivized to get you a ton of money. You want to get the most money as possible, but like on a selling side or a listing side, it doesn't benefit you to overlist the house for way more than it's worth and have it sit on the market. That doesn't do anybody any favors. People assume it's stale or something wrong with it over time. You'll actually sell it for less money if you come out over a long period of time, for months and just having it sit there, or years. Some listings do, if they're grossly overpriced. That doesn't serve anybody well, including the seller, because generally then they'll sell it for less money over time, rather than getting a thrust as a new listing and get a bunch of interest and even get 1 or 2 or 3 offers optimally, regardless of the market. The goal is to price it in a way that gets people vying and competing for it. It gets things well marketed right up front. So that's what you want. The fifth thing I think is important in having a realtor working with you is an engaging personality. Not just because of the flash of being engaging guy, but because, again, in the relationship with you, it's way more fun to work with somebody who's engaging and dynamic with you. And also, they are going to be that way with someone who exhibits those traits, is going to be that way with other people in general, and people like doing business with those who they are engaging with. So again, as simple as that concept sounds, it's not as common necessarily with brokers who are super engaging and in a place where they're going to have the attitude and the personality to get a deal done in your best interest. Effective communication goes right along with an engaging personality to me. And an effective communicator is going to be listening for your needs, goals, and priorities, and listening well to you and making the deal all about you and not making it about them as a broker or what's easy for them or what's going to go smoothly for them. This process isn't about me. I'm not going to buy this house. I'm not going to pay the mortgage after the fact. And I'm not going with you after you sell it. And so my goal is to serve you with full advocacy with your best interest in mind, and communicate well in the process by setting great expectations. Stress reduction. This is a huge component to these transactions, which are operational, and there's lots of moving parts and lots of things going on, lots of needs, but there's also lots of emotion in real estate transactions. It can be a very emotional process for people, and my goal is to reduce your stress throughout that process and make things as smooth as possible for you as I advocate for you in the transaction. Networking and resources are important. So a great realtor will have good connections and resources for you within transactions. All of us don't want to just go to Google all the time to find a tradesman or a contractor or a resource. It's nice to be able to have suggestions of people that I've worked with who have integrity like I do, who there's no smoke and mirrors, and they are straight up, and things are apples to apples as far as an upfront comparison on front. People who do great work for a fair price. That's my goal as a realtor as well. So bringing those resources to the table provides massive value to my clients. So we're not just sending them to just look up somebody and have an unknown as far as how that's going to go in general. The sixth thing that's important in working with a realtor as far as a trade is an attention to detail and meticulous observation and evaluation of property. I work with lots of clients who are in the military and or in law enforcement and other things who are not local or present for inspections, and I can be their boots on the ground. And I'm watching for lots of fine details that you can't always see in the listing pictures. It's so common to see listing pictures like, wow, the place looks amazing, it's gorgeous. And then you get there and think, oh really? as far as some of the detail and nuances that you cannot see. You can't look inside the cabinetry in the listing pictures. You can't poke your eye into the corner, and you can't look at the window tracks and how a place has been detailed and cared for, and all the little maintenance stuff, and the crawl space beneath the house, the attic above the house, and those things. So I'm often popping my head into those things. Now, we later have those looked at by a professional inspector in general, but I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty and get down on my hands and knees and do a thorough evaluation of a property to know whether it's in my client's best interest or not. Or even if you're there with me and we're shopping for property, we can do that together, and I may see things and key on things that you don't notice. Or on the listing side, it's the same type of thing. I want to serve you well in listing the house and preparing the house to list, because we want that to go as smoothly as possible. So maybe I can see things that need to be tweaked or maintained or repaired as we move toward bringing a buyer that's going to come forward. So we don't want them to have those things to bring up. We don't want that to even be an issue. So if we can take care of those, again, proactively beforehand, that's always better. Attention to detail maximizes the value on a property as well. Whether you're on the sell side or the buy side, how a property's been maintained and the attention to detail and intentionality that's been put into a property and how it's being maintained, there's no question it's going to get you more money as a listing agent. We can also use that as a bit of a negotiation tactic on the buy side. If a house hasn't been maintained well, it's not just a cheap tactic. It's going to take money and time in order to bring a property up to where it needs to be. So I can advocate for you on either side, reference property maintenance and value. Attention to detail comes not only just with the structure, but also on the contractual side. There's a heavy contract process throughout this process because not everybody is straight up and deals with integrity. That's why we have contracts. We all know that, and they get longer and longer all the time, year by year. We have more and more contractual stuff all the time because people don't necessarily operate with integrity. That's why we need those, and that's why we need lawyers in order to write them all up. So I can advocate for you on the contractual side to make sure that we have all those proactive details and the right language and the right spots and the right caveats in order to protect you well in a transaction. The last component of attention to detail is just the meticulousness of that and the proactiveness of that, just like we've said. When we're looking at stuff up front and anticipating issues before they even happen, man, it makes things so much more smooth throughout the transaction. Generally, the closing day should just be a technicality and a few signatures. If we're doing our job well and in the areas that we can control, then closing day shouldn't come down to any chaos. I don't do business in chaos. I don't respect people who do business in chaos, and I work very hard in order to make sure that things go as smoothly as possible throughout the transaction, and especially culminating to the close date. The seventh trait you want in a realtor is a deep understanding of the local housing market. So automation and algorithms just can't predict or solve everything, nor can they drill down to the nuances of valuation of property necessarily. So Zillow and Realtor.com's algorithms are based off of millions and millions of properties. They don't necessarily take a specific view or blocked view or an open lot next door that's going to be developed soon, and nobody knows that yet, unless you don't know what you don't know in that case as well. Or a school that's proximate or not so close by, or a park, or other things in the neighborhood that are good or bad traits as far as affecting real estate value. There's a local knowledge of the market and specific neighborhoods that brings value as a realtor, because that affects the value of the property that you may purchase or the value of the property that you are selling. So we need to be aware of those so we can market and pitch that property well to just the right person to bring the buyer that's going to buy that property for top dollar. Or as the buyer, we want to get the best possible deal, and we can understand those nuances as well, and I can help you be aware of things to understand whether that's going to provide a good value to you or not based on its surroundings. All that plays into location, location, location. We've all heard that in real estate. And again, whether you're buying or selling property, the location of real estate is vital to make sure that it meets the needs of the people who are purchasing it. So it depends on how we market it for a listing. It depends on what we're looking for and the criteria that we narrow property down with when you're searching for property for you to purchase. Commercial versus residential, amenities and area and vibe are important as well. You may be in a place where you want to have shopping and stores nearby. You may be in a place where you want rural and super quiet. You don't want to be anywhere near any of those things. So I want to make sure that we're attuned to those, and not just, the key is not just what's obviously around. We can all drive around and see what's there, but we want to see what's going to be there as best we can know. We can't tell what property is going to be developed into all the time, but there are plenty of times when I have good local and introspective knowledge reference development, and that's where relationship with builders and developers comes into play that I have that will help you understand understand what property is likely going to be used for, so you can know whether it's going to suit your needs a year or 2 or 5 from now versus just what we see that's present at the moment. Things like schools and other amenities play into that as well. Like families who may want to be right next to a school and a block from a school sounds awesome. Somebody who doesn't have young children and may not want to be right next to a school because at 3 o'clock p.m. every day or 2 o'clock or whatever it is, that creates a huge amount of traffic, and that can be a hassle to somebody who doesn't have kids in school and doesn't want that. So depends on the time of day you're around. That's just one example of one thing that can be a pro or con depending on the place you're in and the goals that you have. The 8th trait that it's vital for your realtor to have is current knowledge of not only just the market, but even the economy. None of us have a crystal ball. I can't tell the future, and if you figure out a way to tell the future, you come to me sooner than later and you let me know, and don't talk to anybody else. Just come to me and we'll make billions writing books about how to tell the future of the market. So no one can tell the future, but historical data is a pretty good predictor of future behavior and future behavior in the market. And the market traditionally is pretty cyclical as far as what's happened in the past. Generally, it repeats itself, and there's general trends. There's little blips and issues as the market goes, but in general, the real estate market over time has looked just like this, and values have never gone down in the history of the United States in real estate in any 6-year period. Even 2008, where we saw a dip in property values for a few years, after 5.5 years, values were as high as they ever were in the vast majority of the areas in the United States, despite property values going down. So as a long play, and I always recommend real estate as a long play. It's one thing if you're trying to time the market or flip houses or do things quick, but as a long play real estate investment, which is where most people are at, you cannot lose in real estate investment in general by historical data. Continuous learning is important and a great attitude and disposition to have. I'm learning constantly. I'm reading and studying and listening to podcasts constantly, looking at local news and development and building department stats and data, as well as zone and coding changes. So I'm paying attention to all those things all the time. I don't claim to know everything, but I work hard to stay up on those things so I can provide value as far as that goes. Part of my current knowledge comes from investing huge amounts of money in learning and development as well. So I am coached by other realtors. I don't pretend to know everything or be any kind of guru of anything. I want to learn and grow and absorb input and knowledge all the time from everybody in my life. I have 3 mentors at any time, not just real estate, but my goal is to have 3 mentors that are at least 25 years older than me at any moment in my life, because I want to have all sorts of wisdom coming down to me and perspective that I may not have. So I'm always looking for learning, and I'm always looking to have knowledge imparted onto me from people who are even more wise and more experienced than I am. All that relates to investment of time and energy, being all in real estate and being totally immersed in real estate. So this is what I do personally as an investor. I also own my own home, and so I get that kind of personal component as well, which is also an emotional process for me. I'm not immune from that. I'm a human, and I had emotions when I was buying my own house. So I pride myself on learning and growing, having an abundance mindset, being super relational with people, having genuine and authentic connection with them. This is not transactional for me. It's all about relationship and doing what I do with incredible professional prowess and serving people with excellence. So those are the 8 things that I think it is vital for you to exhibit, or for a realtor that you work with to exhibit as criteria for whether you want to work with them, which again is going to provide you the best value in the end. So hopefully this has been helpful. If you think of 5 more traits, I'd love to have you mention those in the chat. I'd love to do another video about some other ideas that you have, or if I'm not doing videos for topics that you'd like to see, I'd love to have your input. Please put down below. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. Text, call, or email after this video to me and reach out. I'd love to engage with you, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.